Today, we're talking about something that is quietly undermining your confidence at work, and you may not even realize you're doing it. We're diving into the hidden ways you're being indirect, the small phrases, the softening, the over explaining that makes your message less clear and less impactful. Because here's the truth, you're not struggling with what you think, you're struggling with how you say it in the moment. We shouldn't be saying, hear you. We should be saying, we are struggling with what we think and how we say it in the moment. This is an all of us thing that we will probably work on till the day we die. In this episode, we'll learn how to recognize when we're being indirect, why it's happening, and exactly what to say instead. If you've ever left a conversation thinking, why didn't I just say that more clearly? This episode is for you.
If you're listening to this and you're thinking, this is exactly what I struggle with, we want to invite you to share it with a friend and leave a review. Please, this helps other women find us.
Welcome to Communication Skills for Working Women. I'm Elizabeth.
And I'm Rose May. Do you find yourself second guessing or avoiding conversations because you're worried about being misunderstood?
You're not alone. On this show, we're sharing tangible tools for assertiveness, emotional resilience, and real life communication wins and fails.
Let's sharpen our communication together.
I'm going to share a story, and I'm going to be vague in this story because I want it to be relatable and not getting caught up in like the details of the topic. I was in a meeting where I very clearly thought I disagree. Very clear in my mind, I disagreed with some of the ideas that were being shared. And this was around an event dress code. But these were just ideas that people were throwing out. And I thought, I don't need to share my thoughts every time around everything, right? And as more people started speaking, I saw that a group was agreeing with this direction that I did not agree with. So I started to get uncomfortable and I started to think, man, I really need to share my insights and opinion here. I need to say it carefully. I can't be emotional. I can't be too passionate. I need to make sure that it comes out okay. And then I started to speak. And I even like took a minute beforehand and this was just probably I would say a fail, but not a fail. It just didn't land exactly how I wanted. I started to speak and I started with I just want to throw this out there, followed by way too many words. And I left the group and myself really uncertain of what I was trying to communicate. And as the words were coming out, I could feel it in my soul that this was not what I meant. I wanted to be clear, and instead, I was being cautious. I knew what I said. I knew I didn't say my thoughts clearly enough to really be heard and understand and understood. Now, like I said, this is vague, and I shared it that way because the truth is, what I was trying to say didn't really matter. My inability to clearly communicate in the moment is what mattered and what we're going to be talking about today.
Well, and I think that sometimes our form of communication, this goes back to previous episodes and things that we've talked about in previous episodes. There are so many factors that complicate or contribute to the experience of maybe not speaking as clearly as we want to. Power dynamics, right, in the room. Sometimes there's a majority, a thought or a majority perspective, and that can kind of feel a little intimidating to go against the grain. There are so many just office and workplace dynamics, right? Alliances and groupings and so there are so many different things that can contribute to us being cautious in this way and really being calculated. And I think that a lot of times it's important to recognize maybe how some of those systemic issues might be impacting the way that we communicate and also what we can do to just be much more clear and direct. I feel like both of those things are experience or are things that can be held at the same time, like being cognizant and aware of some of these issues and also speaking clearly and directly.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thinking about that, there's a lot of preparation that I know I prepare when I'm going into a meeting, and this item was not on the agenda. And
Mm,
it kind of caught me off guard because it is something that's important to me and I wasn't prepared for it. But had I like maybe stepped back a minute in my preparation, I would have realized that this was going to come up at some point. And I could have done some things to prepare ahead of time. I'm also, as you were talking about considering all of the dynamics that happen. Another thing, this specific situation, I was hungry. I had not fed
mm,
myself. So even thinking about taking care of ourselves,
yeah.
grounding, doing a power pose before you go into a meeting, doing your power pose every morning. We should do an episode on power poses. I don't know if they're Rosemary's Jam, but they're great. I love them. We talked a lot about them actually in our facilitation course at Georgetown and the power of, there's a lot of research on power poses as well.
Yeah. I think I do better with grounding. I when I feel grounded, I feel powerful. Like I know a lot of people who are very close to me who actually use that frequently. So,
Embrace the power poses.
yeah.
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 Now I'm super curious about like the research because I feel like grounding would, you're essentially like you have the same goal in
Hmm.
those. And so
Yeah. Yeah,
you
I
just
mean,
approach it differently,
just a
right?
different approach. Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
Same thing, just a different approach. Yeah.
But the way that you talk about a power, we talk about power poses, like it doesn't offer space for grounding to be part of that, but it
Mm,
totally is.
yeah.
So we just offered space there.
Yeah.
All right, so let's talk about this. Let's talk about showing up and fumbling through things. We are going to walk through three very specific ways that this shows up, and more importantly, what to say instead. Awareness is helpful. Yes, it is helpful. But what actually changes things is having language in the moment. The first thing we're going to talk about is disclaimers. When you start your sentence by minimizing yourself, like I said, I just want to throw this out there. That's what I said. Here are some other disclaimers. I could be wrong. This might not make sense. Just a quick thought. Why do we do this? We all do this. Why do we do this? Because our brain is trying to protect us. It's saying, if this goes badly, I've already lowered expectations. Or if this offends somebody, I've already softened it. Or if they think it's stupid, I've already said, like, this might be a bad idea. But here's the problem, it signals to everyone else not to fully take you seriously. Here's what to say instead. Instead of, I could be wrong, but you can say, here's what I'm seeing. Instead of, this might not make sense, say, let me walk through my thinking with you. Instead of just a thought, say, here's my recommendation. Oh my gosh, just saying these every time I like the second one better.
And one of the things I'm thinking, well, I'm thinking two things as we're going through this. One, I've done every single one of these. I was just in a group meeting the other day and someone actually said, oh, what'd she say? She said, this might be a stupid question, or this might be stupid, what I'm about to say. And I was like, you haven't even said anything yet. Like, it's not stupid. And then she said what she said, and it wasn't stupid, actually. It was a really great question, actually. One that I hadn't thought of before. But I've often said that, like, might sound stupid, or yeah, or I could be wrong. That was the first thought that I had. And then, oh, the second thought is that, I've noticed even in therapy that when we're talking about speaking more directly or more clearly, oftentimes I'll hear people say, ah, mm, they'll express their hesitancy because they feel like this sounds rude. So if you were to
Mhm.
say, here's my recommendation, I sometimes hear people say, this is women specifically, actually, I don't want to take up space, or I don't want to come across as like bossy, or don't want to come across as X, Y, and Z. And I guess what I'm trying to say is there's probably a way for you to not soften what you need to say, because that's kind of what we want to get away from. But there's a way to say this in a voice that sounds like you. I would actually probably say all of these things because that's very aligned with my personality. And I don't think that it would come as a surprise to anyone if I
Right.
spoke this way. But I do understand how it could not feel like it resonates with others, and just kind of their personality. So I guess what I'm saying is like take some liberties to make this yours, to tailor it in the way that you would say things, that is
Mhm.
direct and less explainy and more of just clear.
And practice.
Yeah.
Look in the mirror and say it. Does it sound like you? Does it
Mm-hmm.
feel like you? How does your body just naturally kind of move when you say something?
Mm-hmm.
Does that feel like it's in alignment with who you are? And sometimes we might surprise ourselves that
Oh, sure.
we like the more direct and it is kind or, we get
I
surprised.
I'm thinking about the last time I actually did say here's my recommendation. I can't remember if I used the word recommendation, or it must have been something like that. But I remember changing my tone. So it was a
Hmm.
little bit more humorous, but it was very direct. And it was kind of like, so here's my recommendation. Right. And it fit the context of the conversation, but it was, I guess the tone was more playful than it was aggressive. But now I'm thinking like maybe I was policing myself. Again, it did fit the tone of the conversation that we were having, because it was kind of an awkward, tricky conversation.
Right.
And it worked, right? So I could be clear about what I was going to say, but it did. I think that humor maybe softened the tension that was in the room at the time.
Yeah, I we're actually going to get into tone and stuff a little bit more in some other episodes, and so I think there's a lot around this. There's also a ChatGPT or an AI um, tool is a great resource if you're having a hard time with trying to be direct and still feeling like yourself. Whether you bring in humor or whether you just lay it out there, you can like put into ChatGPT what type of tone and try some of them out. I'm not saying have a conversation with chat and have it solve your problems. I'm not saying that type of thing. I'm saying utilize it to help generate ideas in how you can communicate more clearly.
And if ChatGPT or AI is not your thing, practice with a friend. There's
There
is
you go.
is a great way to get some feedback. So,
It really is a great way to get some feedback. And know what? Even I met with my coach last week, not last week, 2 days ago. I met with my coach 2 days ago, and we honestly just workshopped some. It was actually for around a speaking engagement, but the whole thing, all we did was we tried out different words and different scenarios and different sentences. It was so helpful
mm,
to get that human feedback in
yeah.
that.
The second way this shows up is over explaining. This is when you feel like you need to justify your point before you even say it. So maybe you add more context or more background or more explanation. And by the time you get to your point, it's diluted. I know that this has happened to me so many times, because then I've actually paused mid-sentence and said, I just made that so much more complicated than it needed to be. I've actually said that. And then I'll rewind.
I
Be
love the pause. You can pivot in the middle of speaking. It's allowed.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And why does this happen? It happens because we're all trying to make our message more acceptable, or acceptable enough before it even lands. But what actually works is saying the point first and then stopping. So instead of saying, so I was thinking and I looked at this and maybe we could blah, 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 you could say, I recommend we move forward with option B, and then pause, let them respond. And if they want more, they'll ask. Another way of doing this is, instead of saying, I just want to explain why I think this might work, just say, here's why this works. Short, clear, done. Again, tailor it to your own voice, to your own style, but you come out the gate with the point, and that leads to more clarity.
The third way this shows up is softening our message at the end. So it can sound like turning statements into questions, adding kind of or maybe, or asking, does that make sense? Why is this? Because certainty feels risky. So you leave space for others to override you. But here's the shift. Instead of, we should probably move forward with this, say, let's move forward with this. Instead of, does that make sense? Say, what questions do you have? I love this reframe so much. What
Hmm.
questions do you have? It's collaborative, makes people curious. I hear, does this make sense? I sometimes will even say it, even though I try really hard to use this. What
I
questions
say
do
it
you
all the
have?
time.
And it's because I
Because
don't think
sometimes
it's because
people be
we're,
looking confused.
well, right. And I don't think it's because we're trying to be indirect. It's
Right.
because we're really seeking clarity,
Yeah, yeah,
but we're softening. And so we're saying, does that make sense? Instead
yeah.
of, what questions do you have?
Now that I think about it, I've heard people say that before, like, what questions do you have? And I'm like, none. It's clear. Like I have like
Mhm.
specific instances in my mind where when they've asked that, I'm like, oh yeah, I don't have any questions, or I do have questions. I don't know. Same thing, but a very different approach to asking.
Right. You've, right. It brings in a different feeling.
Mm-hmm.
So instead of, I kind of think, just drop the kind of and just say, I think. You're not becoming harsh. You are becoming clear.
Let's bring this together. Today we talked about 3 hidden ways you may be showing up as indirect. So those include disclaimers, over explaining, or softening your message. And the shift is simple, but very, very powerful. Clarity is not rude, clarity is respectful because it allows people to actually understand you.
So here's your challenge today. In your next conversation, say your point without a disclaimer. No softening, no, I could be wrong, just here's what I'm seeing, or I recommend. And then stop. Let that be enough. That's how you start building real confidence.
Thanks so much for joining us. If you found this helpful, please, please, please share it with a friend and leave a review. Until next time, think clearly and listen bravely. When you feel confident in your communication, everything changes.
We'd love to hear your wins, failures, and insights on Instagram at Communication Skills for Women. Leave a review and connect with us.
Until next time, speak clearly and listen bravely.